when we get to the next area, you do have to watch out. There may be wattle cup caterpillars. So these things can either be sort of the brown babies, or they can be the full-grown adults, which are green and black and orange and look really pretty. But these guys have the potential to sting. Oh yeah, well it's a caterpillar. So yeah, these guys have the potential to sting with the potency of 3 to 5 times the pain of a wasp. So if you get stung by them, they're really horrible. I can tell you that from experience. So try to avoid them. They're usually in areas with wattles. So if you know what a wattle looks like, you're ahead of the pack. If you want to know what a wattle looks like and we get there, I can show you. But yeah, just keep your eye out. They're usually around ground level and they are unpleasant.
It's just, you can share it during the day, but the brown area on the map was around that Ellendale estate, and was really the brown area marks where the farm was, because it's must have been taken when it was dry. And you can see the other area up to the left, the higher area, is a bit greener. That was what we were looking towards, the ridges there. But this Ellendale is a little bit, we're heading towards Walkabout Creek Discovery Centre, which is just about 500 metres or 200 metres in front of us. But that area is just off to our right, and we'll go along the Mount Nebo Road. So we'll be driving up along the road for that area. If we could make sure we stay together, we'll have a little bit more time to, I don't know, stand around and talk here, but just don't wander off. There are some walks here, but we won't be doing any of them. We'll just mainly be heading to an amphitheatre area for a talk by the ranger. But if you want to use the toilets here, you know, obviously, and if there's a need to buy a snack, that's fine. But just try and stick together, and we'll wait and hear what the ranger has to say. He's going to come down the amphitheatre, so it'll take us 15 minutes to get there. But I don't know. We could just start running the workshop part. Jay. So when we go down the border, that's number anyway. But I wouldn't call him now. If you hold on to that, we're looking at this somewhere. We really were in the most of the episode. So this is a very pleasant setting, a little bit different from a classroom. The reason we've come here is, again, just to get a talk by the ranger. What I'm hoping, he's going to talk about, you know, some of the, well, they're really in charge of, you know, things to do with the national park, which does mean dealing with people, but they're also, you know, very up on issues about the fact that we are still, I mean, this is a national park and quite a lovely area, which we'll see when we go on the walk later on. but you know, it is in an urban area, so that's the sort of feature that I want to look at is what if we consider I've got one extra one, but if you're sort of sharing these, if that's okay. You know, what if the park wanted to, the national park wanted to set aside some land because this area is bordering the national park. So there's a few things going on in here, in this area that I've got highlighted on the map. From the development point of view, we've seen the area had some area that looked quite developable, but other areas that might have been a bit further on out, it got a little bit hilly as we were looking up towards that sort of range at the back of the subdivision, and accessibility issues. So that's from a developer point of view. From a land ecology protection point of view, it would, well, the ranger would probably say there's, you know, some issues about, you know, if you have developments next to national parks, then you've got animals, cats that can come into this area and probably scare that, scare some of the wildlife off. So, and sort of eat some of the birds that we actually, they've stopped talking now, but chirping. But you know, so that could be a threat to some of the wildlife on the park. So obviously they might talk about buffering areas away from the park. There's also fire management. It's a big issue around parks because there's fires naturally occur in the Australian landscape. So they want to have a regime of having, or a strategy about having regular fire burns. And that's always a conflict if you're living next to an area. I mean, if you had a neighbour and the neighbour wanted to go and sort of set their property alight once every couple of years, you might sort of find that a bit worrisome for your property. So the same here. They would want to do, particularly around that road, that jagged line at the bottom going up to Mount Nebo. They don't want a lot of build-up of, you know, this sort of stuff here. You know, they don't want all this to build up, because that'll burn. If it builds up too much, then it can lead to a crown fire and so forth. So they try and do regular burns around the road. So that's an issue again, a bit of a buffering of things next to the park. Let me see. So what I might do, we're waiting for the ranger to come down, but I didn't tell him, I told him to come down around 10 o'clock, so we're a bit early. So what I might do is I'm going to get you to break into two groups, and we'll have or different subgroups. Sorry. So the main division is I want some environmental people here, like you're going to bring 10 ecologists, and you're going to brainstorm the ideas about looking over this area. How, from a land use point of view, how could you define areas, identify areas that you wanted protected? Okay, so you don't, it's not so much the fact that you want to draw a circle around a bit of area, but you want to define it objectively. So you might say that it's near the national park, or borders the national park, but you want to say, okay, it's a buffer on the neighbourhood or the boundary of the national park. It may be, or you identify areas, habitat that could be in existing habitat or even potential habitat. So one of the things you'll see, one of the GIS layers I'll provide you is the regional ecosystem mapping for this area. And on that mapping, so that'll be next week. But on that mapping you'll see there's one layer that shows what they call the current intact regional ecosystem. So, but you'll see that's a lot less. There's not a lot of that, particularly over some of these areas I'm talking about. But it gets classified from a biodiversity status as being of concern, no concern, to it's threatened. So, and what the regional ecosystem system is about is that where they find habitat areas that are very unique, or you're losing them within the bioregion, the larger region, which takes in I don't know how many, well, southeast Queensland would be one larger bioregion. So if you're starting to lose species that are evident in habitat in southeast Queensland, then it has a higher biodiversity status. If it's used by, if that particular habitat has threatened wildlife species in it, birds and things, then it has a higher biodiversity status. So there's not a lot of remnant parts of biodiversity in this area, but in fact there's some very valuable habitat that used to be there that has been taken away when they developed the farm. So you'll see there's another layer I'll give you called the pre-European or potential vegetation. So that's what used to be there before the land got cleared. And you'll see there's some areas, particularly over the area that we were walking. I said if you look down, there was some down by the creek area, or lower part of that subdivision, there was some sort of forest, very green forest, a thicket, forest thicket. So that has some vine thicket in it that is used by bird species, migratory bird species that come up from, I don't know enough about the bird itself, I just know some birds come there, they use that vine thicket, then they fly on to somewhere else. So it's part of their migratory path, these birds, to use that sort of part of the landscape. So there's some areas there, but it's only a very, you'll see on the maps next week, it's just a very small patch. But if you were able to go back to pre-European times, that was a much larger area. So I don't know, from a conservation point of view, that might be an area that you could set aside for doing some forest restoration. So obviously you'd give a higher priority to areas that are intact and existing, but you might give a secondary consideration to areas that could be restored to these threatened ecosystems. So this is the way we want to think. Is there any ecologists here that know a little bit more informed about this? Want to say a few words? I don't know if anyone feels they want to say something at any point. Jump up and add any comments. Nothing at this stage. Okay. So what I'll do is I'm going to get you just. We'll break into these groups. And I'm going to get developers, say conservationists, and you're going to have to wear if you're a conservationist, you've got to think conservation. You know, you've got to think, I want to protect the land. I don't want to let these mean developers come and clear it. And if I've got land that's got some value, ecological value, then I want to make sure I keep that. And I want some developers who, you know, you want to think about, oh, I'd love to create this beautiful residential area. We all have homes to live in. So I want a lovely residential area, and I want a, you know, very livable community. And it's great. It's going to be in this beautiful place next to Dagula National Park. Couldn't be better. Okay, so one of the features of the assignment is to try and find out where this conflict plays out. This is okay, well that's, so we're going to workshop this in a minute, but Jay?
Yes.
I'll let you, I'll do an introduction. So
Okay,
come on down.
A little early, so
Yeah.
I'll come down and join you and
got
see
you.
what the discussion is.
Yeah. Lessons. Okay, this is Jay Lessons, but I'll let you introduce yourself. I'll introduce everyone. So we're from the University of Queensland. It's a GIS class. It's a postgraduate class. I'd say, how many domestic students are here? So quite a number of international students in the group, and this is a pretty. How many people have been out to this area before? Most of the domestic students, because when you grow up in Brisbane, your parents always bring you out here, and even where we're going to, Jolly's Lookout.
Yep.
You know, I scoped out the trade coming out here, as I said, first time we're running it again this year. But it took me back to when, you know, my parents just took us along the roads up here and to Jolly's Lookout. So I haven't been here since I was a little kid, which obviously quite a while ago. So it was fun. So, but for people who haven't been here before, It's a lovely area. I can't think of a city, too many cities in the world that have such a valuable nature area just within half an hour driving. And there's a lot of activities that go on here, including, well, the main one we want to look at is development adjoining the park.
Yeah.
Anything else about? You need any more information about everyone here?
No.
Everyone's a bit of a mixture of planning, environmental management,
Yep.
Geology,
Okay.
maybe a few IT people.
From different streams, but all on the GIS module for
Yeah.
stuff at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.